In other words, one school is not going to be that significant, but it gives you a rough idea, mostly for in terms of selectivity. That's like the rough idea. That doesn't mean that one school is necessarily better than another, et cetera. Let me just share that link if I can. So this has a link. I'm afraid to hit the share button because I had that glitch before. So let me just share it just straight out. This is the US News.
Yes, and everyone just stay with us and we will extend so that we can get through all the important slides today. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So in that list, if you click on the link, you can see that I've kind of tweaked it a little bit by highlighting schools that are within the Northeast, that are like maybe a 300-mile drive from New York, schools that are co-ed, et cetera. So this is kind of a rough idea of selectivity. So it's something you should consider, but it certainly shouldn't be anything other than just sort of a rough guide. Okay, so the most important thing about a college is actually not the prestige. That's the first thing that many students think about, like what's the best school I can get into? That is not an approach that I really advocate. One of the things that I do when I work with students and families is try to find a college where the student will thrive. Where will they spend the 4 years and optimize their opportunity there? Where will they fit in? What's the cultural fit? And the admissions office, they think about the same thing. So from my experience, 9 out of 10 times a match is made. If the student and their family carefully think about the best fit school, 9 out of 10 times that arrangement will succeed. So the vast majority of students really get into their first top 2 or 3 choices if the list is organized in a credible, reasonable way, put an emphasis on fit. And one of the ways you can find that is visiting the school, going to the website. So the college's websites are really, really useful because they're trying to promote the vibe on the campus. They're trying to promote what makes them different, what makes them special. So you don't want to overlook that. And they're filled with information, including most of them actually have tips about how to apply to that school. So it is a great resource. One thing that gets overlooked is liberal arts colleges, because they're small by nature. They're only about 2,000 students, so they don't have the brand name recognition as like the Ivies or the bigger colleges. But they should not be overlooked because they provide a different kind of experience that may be really, really good for a lot of students. There's smaller class sizes. You get to know the professors. The professors are there for teaching. They do research, but not nearly to the extent that's done at universities. It's more of a community feeling. The campus is often very, very beautiful. So one of the things that just to give an example of how undervalued it is, at elite private high schools in New York, like the Daltons, the Trinities, Horace Mann, et cetera, they send on average like 40 to 50% of their students go to liberal arts colleges. But that comparable percentage at the elite public, the better public high schools, is only about 5%. So it is an under tapped opportunity. And the financial aid is also excellent. I'm going to talk about financial aid at the end. So when you're thinking about colleges, the typical college list has a blend of colleges. They're big colleges, private, public, et cetera. But one of the main categories is these 3. So you can divide the universe of colleges into 3 buckets, roughly. The private liberal arts colleges. So they don't have a graduate school. They have the smaller class size. The small student to faculty ratio is only 7 to 1. And students live on campus. That's a bigger part of that whole community feel. The private research universities, which will include like the University of Rochester, the Ivy League schools, for example, Case Western Reserve, they're less homogeneous because they are larger. The class sizes are larger and the student faculty ratio is bigger. And students live on campus maybe only 1 or 2 years. And then you have the public universities, the flagship public universities, Binghamton, Penn State, Rutgers, Stony Brook, et cetera. Generally speaking, at these schools, students only live on campus for 1 year, the first year. The class sizes are larger, but it has a lot of advantages because it has the school spirit is often excellent. There's usually a big athletic vibe, with this intercollegiate sports. So everyone has their own advantages and disadvantages, and it's really impossible for me to say what would be best. Part of it is learning about the student. The student really has to direct this with the parents' guidance or maybe an outside consultant. So it is a very important process, this discovery process. Okay. Okay. So again, something I referred to earlier about thinking locally or thinking in terms of the brand names. You think of course, the first thing most people think about when a public university is Binghamton, Stony Brook. But there are other flagship public colleges that are really, really high quality. Many of which take a lot of out-of-state students, including my alma mater, University of Michigan, the University of North Carolina, Wisconsin, University of Maryland, which is quite popular for New Yorkers. So University of Delaware is one that's not on this list. So these are all high-quality schools that really should be seriously considered in the mix of things, especially if you like the idea of a big public university, which is very appealing, and I can see why. I think the ideal list would have a blend of maybe a couple of public flagships, some of the private colleges, the universities, and then liberal arts schools. So you don't want to rule anything out. I really try to encourage students to do the homework before you send out your application. So 8 to 12 colleges is what I recommend. Students that apply to more than 12 probably haven't done enough diligent thinking about this process because the list could be cut back. You want to make the decisions at first. You don't want you want to focus your energy on a handful of colleges. And I do feel that if you really have done research and serious thought about it, that number is appropriate. 8 to 12 should be good. And break it down like 1 to 2 reach colleges, 5 to 8 target colleges where you're sort of like a 50% or so to get in, and then one safety school. As far as probability of getting in, it's hard to measure. You kind of get a sense from looking at Naviance, which we'll talk about in a few moments. Sometimes there are some of the websites that I included on that document I shared that actually has estimation of your chances. But it's very iffy. You just kind of have to guess at it. So as you go through the process, you have to be mindful of the timelines. So early decision, early action. So let me share this as a timeline document. I'm just looking at some of the questions, which I'll take in a few moments. I'm going to take a break and I'm going to continue. Okay, so one of the most useful and actually required resources is Naviance. Many parents whose student is a junior probably know about it. Those who are sophomores or first year students. Let me just tell you about this. So this has now become sort of a fundamental part of the process. So there are resources on this thing that are useful, but as far as the required part is, most US high schools, I think it's up to 70% of all the high schools subscribe to Naviance. And the reason why they do that is the back end, which students don't see, is the main vehicle for the high school to communicate with the colleges. So you might think, well, how do colleges get the teacher recommendations or the guidance counselor recommendations or the transcript? It's through Naviance. So there's a password protected back end that's only available to the guidance office where that happens. So the students have to be on it. And when you create the college list at the end, when you're finally ready to apply, that list should match. So the parents should really keep an eye on their child, on their student, making sure that that does matching. The college, the guidance counselors try to do a good job with that, but they have very busy desks. So it really is important to keep tabs on that. So there's a host of resources here. That's the main resource. The resource that students love is the scattergrams. So this is another way of kind of gauging to see whether, you know, the likelihood of getting in. I mean, this is very, very an estimate, because a lot of what the scattergram does, just to show you if you haven't seen it, parents, it just has two axes. It's the SAT and the GPA. So this is a very rough estimate, because those two are just part of this whole holistic process of admissions, especially the SAT, which is being de-emphasized more and more each year. But it gives you a kind of idea. So that's a resource that's part of Naviance, and it's for each school. So they'll only show you the scattergram for the history at the high school that your student is attending. These are just other typical things that you want to consider when you're applying, in terms of like, oh, would I really like this school? So you create a list, and you rank the list, and the student, I suggest an Excel or Google Sheets. You create your list. Maybe there's 20 schools at first, and you winnow it down, and then you rank it, and you change it, and you create a new tab and a copy of it. So you look back in time and see how it's changed. So that's a very important thing. It's a very important process to get right, because it's so meaningful, the college that you wind up going to. So just briefly about the application, the deadlines and the process of getting in. There's ED, EA, and RD. I think most of you are familiar with it, but just briefly, early decision is mostly private colleges, and allows you to apply early, and you find out usually within 4 to 6 weeks when you apply early. Early action is mostly public colleges do not have early decision. They only have early action. The deadline's usually in early November. And of course, there's regular decision. One thing I will say is, if you go early decision, there are advantages to getting in. Some schools place more value in it than others. And I have this sheet here, which actually lists many of the colleges and the difference between regular decision and early decision. So let me share that with you.
Hey, Bill.
Please.
When you get a chance, can you also go back to that timeline document? That didn't get pasted to the chat.
I think I just realized that I made that mistake. I accidentally sent it to just one person by accident.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Lucky person. Okay. Yeah, we'll do it to paste to everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone, don't be shy about asking questions in the chat. Okay. That are college related. We are going to go past 8. We'll extend so we can go through everything. Okay. Go right ahead.
Okay. And there's one other one. Did everyone get that first one with the US News rankings?
Yes. The only one that wasn't pasted was the timeline. Everything else was pasted. So thank you.
Thank you for that feedback. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so as far as this goes, just to wrap this slide. So this is a very important decision, and this is why it's important to get started early, because there are many students that I know that I've worked with that did not prepare in advance enough and lost the opportunity because it is a hard deadline. So early decision, early action is the first half of November. So by just not being prepared, you missed an opportunity. In particular, In the public college, the public flagship colleges like the University of Michigan's, the University of North Carolina, Maryland, there are advantages. In fact, for out-of-state students, the only aid available, which is less than in-state students, but what aid they have is only available if you apply EA. So that's one important thing. In addition to which, it's showing interest. It shows that you've taking it seriously, that you've planned in advance, and that you're prioritizing the school. So that does, for many colleges, matter a lot. Let me just take a short break here and ask people for questions. Let me go to the chat, because there were some questions here. You feel free to ask a question. Oh, so someone asked, Chital asked, are private liberal arts colleges hard to get into? Many of them are. So the very top ones are comparable to the top schools, including like, for example, Williams, Amherst, and Swarthmore, to name three, are comparable to the Ivies. So they're very, some of them are really, really excellent. And the quality of the students and the rigor of the program are in top tier. But there's a range of liberal arts colleges, just like there are for the universities. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the basically thing is that sometimes the liberal colleges, like, they're smaller, but then they also have like the same quality.
That's exactly correct. And that's one of the big things that if I have one message that I would like to impart, it's that is something that I really promote, because I really am a very big fan of the liberal arts colleges. Okay. And I hate to see students overlook that. That's exactly right.
Also, one more thing. So you said some of these universities are like research. Some of like the private universities are research universities. Like, what does it mean by that? Like, how does it set? Where is like the research part of that?
Okay, exactly. So the universities, that's the distinction between a liberal arts school and a university. They both do research. A research university, so it's a little bit deceiving. So it's a fair point. The research universities, a lot of the professors are doing like very, very like impactful research, and that takes up a lot of their time, whereas teaching is secondary. And whereas in the liberal arts colleges, they do research, it's the teaching that is primary and the research is secondary. Oh, one other thing about the research, I can vouch for this, that at the liberal arts colleges, it's much easier to get internships. If you want to work for a professor or the school doing research, it's just more accessible. Everything there is more accessible. So that's one advantage of not to say you can't get research at a university, but it's so high level that it's harder to break in. And just before I go on, I'm just looking at some questions. What percent of students are admitted EA? So ED, that's one fact that reminded me of one thing I wanted to share and I forgot. For most of the liberal arts colleges, as an example, the ED, about 50%, 40 to 50% enter through ED versus the regular decision process, but far fewer apply to ED. So the percent of getting in is usually double. The admission rate is double for many colleges. It's about twice as high to get in. That could be a little deceiving because like legacies have to apply ED, and recruited athletes also have to apply ED. So it kind of distorts the number, but suffice it to say that for most schools, not all, for most schools, ED gives you somewhat of an advantage. Okay. Yeah. So for majors, that would be something you would choose. That you don't get ruled in or ruled out for most schools on a major. So that question on the Common App is really just as a guide. Okay. I'm going to talk so about scoring. Let me continue. I'm going to get back to some of these questions about scores because I think it's included in the presentation. Okay, so let me switch over to like strategies for getting in. So one of the main strategies is putting yourself in the shoes of an admissions officer. What are they thinking? What are they looking for? The word holistic is probably the most, I was to say overused, but it is somewhat accurate word that's used to describe the process. And what they mean by that is there's so many different ingredients to go into the stew. It's not just your grades. It's not just your score. It's not the numbers. They really try. A lot of the people who work in admissions are young. They're recent college graduates, typically often in their 20s. They only do it for 5 or 6 years and they maybe move on to something else, another career. They're very idealistic and they wear their hearts on their sleeve. They're very passionate at what they do. So they read the essays with a lot of passion. And if something clicks with them, they're going to try to campaign for you when the time comes, when they go through what's called committee. So students that are on the bubble, that are decision is sort of can go either way. There is a process where 10, 12 admissions officers sit around the table, and they each candidate has about 5, 10, 15 minutes to be discussed and advocated by that admissions officer that read your unique and special essays, and they advocate for you, and that's part of the process. They want to see a campus that's diverse. So they want athletes, they want artists, activists, academics. So in the essays, you want to be true to yourself, but everyone is special. So it's very important to bring out that special quality, that quirkiness, whatever it is, out into your essays. That's it's an opportunity to do that. And you really should seize that opportunity. Let me move on to the Common App. So every student, 900 colleges are on it right now. So pretty much all the named schools, I think the lone exceptions that I know of are Georgetown, the University of Wisconsin, and the University of California schools are the only ones I know of that are not on the Common App. I mean, I know there are others, but it's a short list these days. The one thing I urge parents to do, you can actually a parent can set up a parent account. So when you go to commonapp.org, right there, commonapp.org, you can actually, I would normally do it, but I'm a little bit gun shy from the glitch I had before. So I don't want to risk it again, but just go to commonapp.org and it'll ask you right away, do you want to set up a parent account? So the parent account, obviously you can't do anything, but it lets you see all of the schools, all of the colleges that you add colleges and go to that process. You want me to try that? Should I try it? Yeah, let me go to it right now.
Yay, it works. Everyone, Bill is so amazing for doing this webinar and so kind in his request. I'm going to make it a bossy one. Everyone, tonight, guess what you have to know? What do you have to remember? Who wants to type what you must do? You must set up a parent account. Okay, got it? Yes? Say yes.
Right, so you're not being that nosy, but you're not being nosy. I mean, you're not sharing your student's account, okay? But so you parent or other adult, and then you log in, okay?
So can someone, Emmanuel, can someone please type for me? Set up a parent account.
I'm gonna log in. I created a parent account earlier today. Let me just kind of walk you through this.
Good. How about, you know how like I do those cute little Kweller suggests? How about Kweller demands? I want to do a demands. Everyone, you must set up a Kweller. Right, Kweller, forget about the suggests. I'll save it for the emails. Kweller demands. Set up a parent account. While Bill is loading the screen, just remember, you're paying for these applications, okay? Just thought you should know that. Reminder, you're the ones paying, parents.
So yeah, thank you, Francis. This is really worth doing it because kids are procrastinators. We all are, right? But it's too important to take chances on. So for example, I want to put the University of Rochester in there. So then I add to my colleges, and then I go to the my colleges list, and I have 2 colleges in there. So when you click on it, it will tell you all the things like the supplemental essays are in there, the questions, etc. In the Common App part, so there's certain things that are common to every college, of the 900 colleges that belong to the Common App. That's in the Common App part. That's the middle tab right here. So you can keep tabs on it. I mean, some of these things take a lot of time. I mean, you have 10 activities to list. So just kind of gives you an idea of what's there. Of course, you can ask your student to see if they filled that out. Okay, let me go back.
Hey, Bill.
Please.
Got a question. So I'm actually filling one out right now, and I was wondering, does it somehow link to your child's account so you can all be on the same page, or your account is separate from their account?
That's a good question. It is a completely separate account. I mean, if it depends on relationship with your student. I mean, you could get your students' login credentials and just kind of like make sure that they're doing everything right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it is separate. But that would be ideal. I mean, if you really want to get your child, but at the same time, as a parent, I kind of like I'm on the fence about how much I should get involved. It's like the college, going to college is like the first thing that they do really on their own. So there's kind of like everyone knows their child, best. So, you make that judgment call.
Yes, and everyone, I just want to remind you what a kind and soft-natured person Bill Reddick is. Every single person in this room set up a parent account. Do you people hear me? Bill, am I staticky or clear?
You're clear. I hear you.
Set up a parent account. I don't want to hear this nonsense. You're paying for these applications. You're going through the process. You're paying whatever tuition you're going to pay. Every single person in the Zoom set up a parent account. Okay, thank you. I'm done.
Okay, so mission strategies. So you definitely want to emphasize, if possible, things that are distinct about you. That's to that earlier point about the colleges want a diverse campus. The quote that I like the most, which I heard from a student actually, was it's like a circle with a spike in it. So they want a well-rounded kid. So you have to be a good student, okay? You should have good social skills, but the spike is what's going to get you into the elite schools, the better schools, your reach schools. And the spike is something distinct about you. So how do you communicate that distinctness? That's through the essays. It's through the list of activities, the achievements you had in the honors section of the Common App. The interview. So many colleges have an interview, not the big publics, but many or most of certainly 100% of the liberal arts colleges do, for example. But many of the private universities do. This is a way of communicating that. So it's all mixed in together. But everyone is unique, but you have to know yourself. It's largely it's about maturity. It is asking a lot for a 17-year-old to kind of like be so in touch with who they are inside and to express that. But that is part of the process. The other thing I emphasize is a theme. So if you can think about like a theme that you could consistently thread through the application. It could be about your activities, your essay, through the activities, through the essays, through the achievements. Something about you. What is special about you? And are you a musician? Are you someone who's done a lot of community work, or in sports? Something that is consistent, and that becomes the theme. And this is a great quote. Good colleges are not looking for the well-rounded student, they're looking for the well-rounded class. So that kind of captures a lot of what I was saying before. So other admission strategies. So this is part of like how you grooming like the activities list. There's 10 activities, you want to rank them. That's how you're displaying your unusual skills. The cultural fit, which I mentioned before. And colleges will reach out to you. So this is kind of surprising, mostly with the liberal arts schools, but many of the private colleges, there's actually a communication, like a back channel. If they like you, they'll invite you to, I shouldn't say like you, but if they want to learn more about you, they reach out to you and join a webinar or join a class. Actually, some of the schools will actually invite you to join a class online. So those kinds of things happen, but you want to, if you really are passionate about a school, you want to demonstrate interest in that school. Even though many colleges say it doesn't matter. First of all, many schools say it does matter. The larger privates like the Ivy say it doesn't matter, but I think in the end, it may matter. So showing interest in a school should be something that you should try to do. The personal essay, which is a big deal. So it's about 600 words. So it's about like a page, a little over a page. Single space, so 2 pages, double spaced. So this is a real challenge for someone who's 17 to be introspective and soul searching. But it really makes a difference. There's like a consensus when you speak to admissions officers that they really want to see something that's genuine. Try not to make it canned. The objective is to have the person reading it, the admissions officer, want to root for you. They want to advocate for you. So it should be kind of upbeat in the end. I mean, it could be about overcoming a challenge, but at the end, it should be upbeat, and it should be something that maybe puts a smile on their face. And one of the quotes that I hear about the essay is they typically read during the peak of the admissions season, they read 30 applications a day, 30 essays and 30 applications each day. And if you can be one of the 3 or 4 that they remember on the commute back home, think about that as sort of the goal of the essay. Let me take a short break here. We're running a little over. So take any questions. Umesh asks, what does SAT optional really imply? And that's a good question. Since COVID, excuse me, since COVID, many colleges, actually all colleges, 100% of colleges have gone test optional. Some have even gone test blind, but they don't even consider your SAT, but 100% are at least test optional. What it means is, in principle, it doesn't count for you or against you. But the rule of thumb is if you feel that they will help you, then you should send them. If you feel that it wouldn't. So the question is where do you break it? I mean, the rule of thumb is certainly if you're in the top, like half, I definitely would send it. You could look up those statistics online. But even if you're it's also about, I have my own sort of philosophy, which is transparency. So even if it's not a great score, send it, I believe, because you're being transparent. And I think that the honesty matters. I think that means something. Okay. Good. And anyone has a question, please ask if you want to jump in. Let me see. For more information about the slides, etc., I have the email address at the end. It's info@kwellerprep.com. I have that at the end. Info@kwellerprep.com for more information about the slides and things like that. Okay. Okay. All right. So the last part, this is the last section. So hang in there. Financial aid.
Yes, and then everyone, we have a really special guest. We have a recently accepted MIT to give all of you a parent. It's a parent who's going to give you some amazing, heartfelt, unscripted, unrehearsed advice. So she's in the waiting room when this piece is over. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I should do this now then. Yeah, this is the last piece. I'm going to kind of go through this quickly because we're running over. So college financial aid. So it's a lot of misconceptions about financial aid. In fact, I was listening to an NPR podcast like a few weeks ago, and I could not believe the inaccuracies of it. I was absolutely floored by how inaccurate it was. So there's a lot of misinformation out there, including by reputable sources. So hang in there, okay? Here's my cheat sheet. So let me post that on the chat. Okay, so you look at the sticker price, it's very daunting. I mean, the average college, private college is $75,000, and the SUNY is still $32,000 when you factor in everything. That's like the sticker price of like the room and board, books, travel, entertainment, pocket money, etc. I mean, that's the realistic number there. So many people looking at those numbers say, well, I rule it out. I have to go to a SUNY because I can't afford $75,000. But that is often not the case because of financial aid. So financial aid is extremely generous at many colleges. Every school offers financial aid, 100% of them do. The generosity does vary. And one of the biggest insights that I share with you right now is the generosity of financial aid is correlated to how selective the school is. So, for example, schools in the top 20, that would include the Ivies, top 30 schools, are need blind and give 100% of your need in grants. So you don't take out any loans. Whatever the true need is, that they'll give you 100%, they'll write it off. So if you're making $80,000 a year and you can only afford to pay $10,000, that's all you pay. I mean, it's an incredible opportunity to go to college, because they really make it work. So 60% of schools receive financial aid. So we're going to talk about the net price calculator. That's a big deal, and merit aid. So the big terms that you need to know in the financial aid world are the expected family contribution. That's considered to be a very accurate, where they really genuinely try to make an accurate estimate of what you really can afford to pay. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. The net price is a legally defined term by the federal government. Every college in the country, by law, this is true, must have a net price calculator on the website, and it has to be accurate. It's an absolute golden opportunity, a rare opportunity since the late 1980s. It's an opportunity to find out what you will really pay. In other words, the net price tells you how much grants that you will get. That's need-based grants, by the way. Need-based grants you will get based on like a 10-minute questionnaire. I'm not question, I'm sorry, a series of questions about your financial situation. It's mostly based on your income, not your assets. Okay. So let me just go through this very, very quickly. So you start with the sticker price, which is usually very high. And the sticker price is broken down into roughly, these categories. There's other money, but you can see that. So most of it is tuition. You can see about 2/3 of it is tuition. So this kind of shows you what the net price is. So the net price is what you pay after grants. So it doesn't include loans. It doesn't include work study. It's just really the true, since it's set by the federal government, it's going to be fair and honest. It's going to be an accurate number. They're not like marketing things or playing like a shell game. It is an accurate number, that net price, and it's legally defined. Okay. So the first question you should ask yourself is, how do colleges know? How do they figure it out? In other words, it's the same question in the financial aid jargon. It's the same question as asking, how do they come up with the expected family contribution? The answer is, there are two ways. There are two forms that you'll need to fill out. Almost every private college will ask you to fill out the CSS profile. The public schools will just do the FAFSA typically. For like the SUNYs, you just have to do the FAFSA. They both have the same purpose, to generate the expected family contribution. The difference is the CSS profile is owned by the College Board, and each college has their own back end, their own algorithms, and it's much more detailed. So the CSS profile focuses a lot on your assets, the business you own, if you own a second home, your investments, etc. So that's the CSS profile. So it is a longer form to fill out, and there are strategies to filling that out as well. Okay, so the EFC, for example, if you have expected family contribution of $10,000, say, that's all you can afford to pay out of the $70,000. That means that the $60,000 that has to come from another source. The financial aid package is more than just grants. Like I was saying, in the top 20 or 30 schools, it is basically all grants. But once you go down that list in terms of the competitiveness or the selectivity of the school, they mix it in because they don't have the deep pockets. They don't have the endowment. So they mix it in with a host of other things, including private loans. There's Pell Grants, of course, that's actually part of the need-based loans. That's a federal loan, a federal grant, I'm sorry. There's merit aid. Some schools give merit aid to try to lure you in to the school to make it more attractive. And then there's federal loans, those are called Stafford loans, direct and indirect loans, et cetera. So there's a host of things that happen there, okay? So that's how they do it. And that's a sort, these columns here on the right show you like the, let Let me just move that, I'll blow that up here. So this is kind of emphasizing how the selectivity of the school impacts the quality of the financial aid package. Notice the financial aid package is still 100%, but how it breaks down in terms of quality is different. So that's what I was trying to emphasize. This slide is showing something that you don't really think about, but it's kind of shocking that most colleges charge the same. I mean, when you buy a Porsche, that's not going to cost the same as a Chevrolet, but in the world of colleges, it does. So that it defies all of the laws of economics that you learned in college. So that's kind of something to consider. The generosity of financial aid, I spoke about that the most selected schools are more generous. And as you go down the list, it becomes less generous. By the way, public universities are different. Everything I've said about that is just for private. The public universities don't have that curve. They're going to look. They don't do like the merit aid so much. It's much more equitable. And the thing about the public colleges is, like, for example, the SUNY. So if you're in state, it's different than if you're out of state. So the SUNY is not going to actually give you that much aid if you're if you have a middle income. The logic is this: that every student, they feel that tuition is about $10,000. So every student is getting about a $35,000 grant, just regardless of your income. And they don't want to go much past that. So it is somewhat more difficult to go to apply to a SUNY and get more aid besides the in-state discount. Very quickly, need blind versus need aware. So need blind is the gold standard. There's only about 25 or 30 private colleges that are need blind. In state, they're all need blind. Almost every public college is need blind. So this is just dealing with private colleges. So need aware means that they factor in financial need in making the decision to accept you. That's just the reality, because they have limited resources. Most schools have limited resources, so they have to factor that in the admissions decision. So the question is, how much is it factored in? Well, for most people, not much. This is a rough illustrative curve that shows you how much it affects you. So if you have very low financial need, you're very affluent, it does boost your chances. On average, I'm guessing about 20%. If you're the middle income, very little. But if you have a lot of need, it actually can help you, because that's part of the Pell Grant is actually a statistic that's used in the US News list. It's actually a significant factor. So if you qualify for that, which means your income has to be under $40,000, household income, I mean, that would actually, it would help you. So that is kind of a strange result, but that more or less is accurate. And then I wanted to talk about the SUNY, because I started off by saying the SUNYs are cheaper, it seems, but that is often a misconception. This is actually this is actual real data. So in some cases, it's actually less expensive for an average middle-class family. The cost of the net price is what I'm trying to say. The net price, which is the price after grants, things that you don't have to pay back, is actually less expensive at a top school or comparable. So that's something to consider. Not to say there's anything wrong with the SUNY. Some of the SUNYs are great, and it's a different experience. And again, every child is different, and they're going to respond to a different environment. So how do you find out how much you'll pay, right? So there is that net price calculator, which I mentioned. So this is just an example. This is Wesleyan University. Again, it legally has to be on every website, so it's usually not hard to find. If you navigate on the site, go to admissions and then financial aid or financial office, and then it'll be there. Or you can go to the search box on the homepage, type in net price calculator. So this is just some snapshots of different packages for the same family. So here, using $90,000 in household income, you own your home, but your home is not really factored in. Your equity in your home is not really factored in much at all. The thing that is factored in is if you have a second home, that's considered. And there's certain kind of exemption where the income, your assets are not included, and then beyond that, there's a algorithm they use where it's gradually factored in more and more. But basically, your home and your business are not, and your retirement income is not touched at all in this calculation. So you can see the variety of results. This is the net price. So this is the amount that you would actually pay. And keep in mind, the price of attendance is basically the same in each school. So it gives you kind of an idea. This is something I sent you already. So this kind of gives you like sort of an overview of the sources of financial aid and what you can expect. Most of the action is at the bottom. So nearly all the financial aid you'll get, in the quality financial aid, meaning the grants, are going to be institutional, meaning the college gives you most of the money, most of the grants. Okay. We're wrapping up. Thank you for staying. We're thinking about doing an admissions workshop. So this would be sort of just an overview, but there's so many details that could really be helpful. So these are this would be like a 5-session workshop, which may happen depending upon the interest level. If you're interested, send an email to Francis at their info@kwellerprep.com. Any questions? I did a lot of talking.
Everyone, please type questions into the chat. And then Bill, can you just help make Tanya the co-host of the meeting? So she's going to join and she's going to tell us and give us some tips and advice. So Tanya, if you're able to unmute yourself, and Bill, can you just assist? Because I'm co-host. I don't have my superpowers at the moment. You do. So if you're able to, please just help her be co-host. And if you could go on video, okay, and go through that. All right.
Hi, I'm here. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Tanya. How are you?
If you want to go off and if you want to go on video, and Bill, if you can just help us spotlight her. Tanya is the parent. Her child was recently accepted, and she's going to give us some parent tips. And then when Tanya's done, I'm going to give you some bossy tips. Okay, go ahead. Have fun.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, Tanya. How are you? It's
Well,
been a couple of
thank you.
months.
Yes, it's been a couple of months. It's really great to see you. And this was a great presentation. I joined a little bit late, but you're just, your pearls of wisdom are just fantastic. From my point of view as a parent who's just gone through this, I think I've got some insight as to why I think it really made a difference for my son to work with Bill at the end of all of the work that he had put in to working on his college applications. The summer before applying to college, so that's the summer between junior year and senior year, it was a working summer, and the kid just really worked on drafting and redrafting his essays and developing, as Bill said, developing a theme. And so by the time the fall came, September, as usual, when I've got a question about education or what's the best way to prep or do something, I called Frances Kweller, of course, because she's the guru on experts for education. And I said to Frances that he had done a lot of work. He drafted his essays. He's got a good focus about where he's applying, but he needs help, and we're feeling lost, and we don't want to mess this up after doing all of this work, and also having a student who worked very, very hard since freshman year at Bronx Science to really distinguish himself and, do very well and enjoy the things that he loved to study. And she immediately put us in touch with Bill. And I'm so grateful, because I think Bill was absolutely the difference maker at the end. While Cervantes had developed his theme for his application, it was really working with Bill in those 5 or 6 sessions in the fall before the applications were due that Bill helped him to not only identify that, yes, you have a theme, but he helped him to polish his brand and to polish the presentation of his brand on his college application. And that polish, I think, made all of the difference, so that while he had all of his essays done, and that's something as a parent, I really helped him over the summer to just sort of chunk it up and give him some goal setting ideas of work on trying to get this done in the next week or so, and helped him to keep a calendar and to keep on track, because it was very overwhelming, the amount of work that's needed to help him get all of that done. That Bill really helped him to polished the tone of those essays with choices of words and emphasizing, de-emphasizing different things that he had planned for his essays. And that made a very big difference. And Bill, I think, was also incredibly masterful and important with strategizing with my son in those meetings as to, was it going to be early action? Are you applying early decision? He had his aim for the schools that he wanted, and Bill really helped him to go through to analyze where were your strengths and what was your best position or best strategy for getting the admission that you really, really wanted. And it was brilliant the way that they talked about it. I didn't participate in their meetings. I listened to a lot of them. I mean, everything happens, you know, on Zoom at the kitchen table, right? So I listened to a lot of it. Sometimes I would jump in at the end of their meeting just to go over some, you know, some things of what the plan was of work to do. But it was a meeting between my son and Bill really helped to strategize that decision about what are you applying early to and why, and what your strengths are, and how to position yourself best. And the third thing that Bill really helped my son with, and we would not have thought of this at all, was Bill suggesting to my son and really guiding him and helping to give him the confidence to ask his mentors in the lab that he worked with for a letter of recommendation for college. And I think that that really made a big difference. Of course, my son had 2 letters of recommendation from school. That was something that he had worked on at the end of junior year to make sure he knew the teachers that would give his letters. But over the summer, my son was doing a lab position for research at NYU. And Bill really encouraged him to get letters of recommendation from the principal investigator and his mentor. And the kid was nervous about it. I mean, he really was nervous about it. And I would say even lacked confidence to do that ask. And Bill really encouraged him, gave him ideas about how to talk about it. And wow, you know, they said yes. And it was incredible, I think, for a 17-year-old to get a joint letter of recommendation from these 2 PhDs. We don't know what it said, but they said, of course, that they would do it for him. I imagine it was very positive, and I think that that made a very, very big difference to distinguish his application. And for
Tanya,
that,
do you mind?
Bill,
Do you mind?
I'm grateful.
Everybody pay attention. Everyone pay attention. Tanya, can you once again explain the genius behind the letter? Is everyone paying attention? Say yes.
It was genius, and that was Bill's doing. You know, he had, Bill, you were so warm and easy with Cervantes, and they really had a great rapport right from the beginning. And Bill cultivated and really, I think in the conversations about what are you doing over the summer, Bill came up with that genius idea of, hey, Saran, you really should go to these, you know, PhDs that you're working with and ask them for a letter of recommendation. And
is everyone paying attention? Do you hear me? You guys better. Do you guys hear me? How many letters do you get? How many letters? Tanya, explain how many letters in total. Pay attention, everyone.
You clearly must have 2 letters of recommendation, one from a science base or math, and then one from a humanities point of view or history. So Cervantes had his English teacher and his physics teacher, and he locked that up at the end of junior year, asking those teachers if they would support him with a positive letter of recommendation. So he had that planned, and that was great. But then this 3rd letter, which is an option that the colleges provide. I think most of them do. I mean, Bill, you can describe this, but my son, his main application was MIT. This is what his aim was. And so MIT said, if you have another recommender, you can provide that. And lo and behold, these two you know, doctors provided that letter, a joint letter of recommendation. And I think it just was brilliant. And that was all Bill's doing to not only recognize what an opportunity that was, but to help my son have the confidence at 17 to ask for that in this very professional setting where he was working as a volunteer researcher, and he did it and he got it. And I think it made a big difference. And I'm very grateful for that, Bill. I think it was fantastic. So Bill helped him to polish the brand of, the very strong science and math STEM kid, but then also helped him to take advantage of certain questions and the opportunity to showcase that he was young and fun and a people person and connected to community and had done good things as far as contributing to the community. And Bill helped him to, I think, create those different sides of his application so that it wasn't strictly just grades, test scores, STEM classes. He helped to bring out the other parts of him that allowed his application to showcase him as a person and how he would be a member of the community at school, and that he really was a great fit for MIT. He had, all the numbers and everything, but that he's a person who's going to fit there. And we're very blessed and grateful that my son was admitted on early action. December 18th was the day that changed the trajectory of his life. He got admitted to MIT. I pinch myself every day just thinking about it. So,
and everyone, he got admitted to another school the same day.
Yeah.
So please, if you could share that so that the parents know that it wasn't just one school.
No, it wasn't. And there was a lot of discussion with Bill in those early meetings about, okay, what are you really applying to? So Cervantes had applied to early action to MIT, of course, which was the dream school, but also University of Chicago because they had early action, University of Michigan, and SUNY Stony Brook, which felt at the time more of like his comfort school that would make him feel good, and he felt like he had a very good chance of getting that, and it would feel good to get a yes early on from them. So he did all of those things, and yes, at the same time he got the yes from MIT, University of Chicago had also admitted him, and that was incredible on the same night to open up those portals and get those two yeses. U Chicago is just an incredible school. And I tell you, as much as he dreamed and was, he's so excited about MIT, he's very sensitive, and he sent a very thoughtful and long thank you to University of Chicago in his declination of the offer. And he felt really badly about it, but it was incredible. So it was a really incredible journey, very exciting. And Bill really made such a difference at the end after the kid had really worked all summer on being prepared, starting way in advance to write all of that. It's so much work of the drafting and redrafting, and just the strategizing. All the credit goes to Bill, really does. Thank you, Bill. Incredible.
Thank you, Tanya, for those kind words. And one thing I want to say about working with Cervantes, and I say this about all my students actually, I'm not trying to create something that's not there. Cervantes is a brilliant young man.
Oh,
and,
thank you.
I see my job as just sort of like getting the best of my client, Cervantes in this case, put it on the application to put his best foot forward, to demonstrate who he is, the quality, and how he would fit. And the largest part of that success is something I mentioned in the presentation, is the fit. The truth is Cervantes was a very good fit at MIT. And we were having a conversation about that because we were considering other schools. And that was I think the deciding factor. And that's part of my job. Learn about the student, learn about the family, their interests, what the student is about, what makes them tick. And then I use my knowledge and my experience with many colleges, and I put it all together, and I kind of groom the application and work with the student on the essays. And in this case, and it really was a home run. So I'm so happy for you and Cervantes, and
thank you.
A brilliant future.
Thank you. I wish I could have him join, but I'm upstate New York right now, caretaking my mother, who's not feeling well. So
yay! And I have 3 kids who are miraculously silent in the background. It is a miracle, divine intervention. Tanya, Can you give some very general advice as a parent? You're a parent. Give the best advice you can think of to help you know, these parents with their children, guide in the application, give the best advice you can think of. And again, it's really important that all of these conversations are unscripted, unrehearsed. I'm really big about that. I want it to be heartfelt. You can tell when something's read. So Tanya, give us the best advice you can as a mom, as someone who works full time, who has 2 kids, you have a family. Give the best parental advice, guidance you can.
I think, you know, I can only speak to what happened in our own apartment. And that was just dialogue, you know, talking. And the other piece of it is he was a very busy student, and he's great at being organized, but even, you know, the super great organized students, this is a lot. So my piece was to help him any way that I could to stay on track, to make a plan. You know, what are the tasks that you want to accomplish in the next week or 2 weeks? And we had calendars, you know, or papers taped on the fridge of, you know, what's the plan upcoming this week? Okay, is it this essay getting a draft? Is it the 5th draft, 10th draft, whatever it is, helping him to stay on track. And in the beginning of the process of just talking about college, of talking and trying to elicit, you know, his ideas. Where did he see him? What are his dreams? What's the reality of what you're talking about, where you would live? It was a lot of talking in the car, talking at the kitchen table, you know, just constantly talking about these things. And then me keeping notes taped on the fridge of the actions that you need to do to get from point A to point B. I think that was my big contribution to the college application process, was helping him to chunk it up so that he just wouldn't collapse under the pressure of all of it, because it's daunting. I think it's just frankly too much for these young kids who are really busy. You know, he worked 200 hours in the lab that summer. So how do you work 200 hours in the lab, still go out and have fun and be a kid over the summer, and deal with this albatross of the college application process? So I helped him to try to keep a path towards getting all the different pieces done. But that really, you know, it started even before the summer in terms of just talking about colleges. So I think those are my 2 things, honestly. I mean, I'm a big talker. He's a talker. And trying to keep it an open dialogue so that he felt good about exploring different ideas or desires and not shooting them down and imposing our dreams, frankly, and our wants and wishes on him, really letting him have his process to talk about it, and then helping him plan how you get it done. I think those are really the essential ingredients that went on in our house. And then with the meetings with Bill, because then it was like really crazy busy time once the fall started. He didn't start meeting with you, Bill, I think until later September. That it was bringing up the dialogue with Saran of, oh, wow, you have a meeting with Bill next week, and helping him to make a plan of, I'd like to talk to Bill about these 2 or 3 things. I want to make sure I get these items redrafted in advance so that he could, you know, give his thoughts about them. Helping him to plan for his meetings with Bill, because you only have a finite amount of time. Bill is a very busy person. You want to maximize the opportunity to speak with him and get all of his pearls of wisdom and genius about, you know, helping you. So I encouraged Cervantes to plan for those meetings because he'd never done anything like that before. So it was a matter of, you know, jotting down some notes, some actions that you wanted to do in advance so that he really maximized that time that he had with Bill to his benefit. And I think that they were both really productive. And I think they were so productive because so much work was done by my son in advance of the meeting. And I sort of kept that train moving along. I think that was
So
my
can
part.
you elaborate on how you move the train? Because I'm very fascinated by the Post-its, everyone. Parents, pay attention.
Well, I mean, the dates, first of all, Bill just brought it up. Early action, November 1st. Wow, that rolls up on you really fast after school starts. You think it's a long way away, but it's not. So having knowledge of what the deadlines are, knowing all of that way back in July, frankly, and putting the dates on a calendar any way that's going to work for you. At one point, Cervantes was using his big whiteboard that's in his room. He would make columns, and he had, his 3 big target schools, and, what has he gotten done? There are different tools through the school, once you're sort of in the process and you see whether letters of recommendation were asked for and whether they're completed. So that helps you. But at home on the fridge was, notes on the weekend mostly is when the work was getting done because he was working all week. So the plan for, all right, is the weather going to be lousy Saturday or Sunday? Which day are you going to want to make it a working day? And let's plan it out. You are going to work on, these 2 or 3 essays. MIT was the main thing, and MIT is not part of the Common App, and it's a long application and it's very different. So he would have all of those different parts of that application. Which one are you going to work on this weekend? And okay, you'll do a new one next week, but then you're going to go back to the drawing board and redraft perhaps another one. We would also just have conversations at home. My husband was a part of it. His younger sister was a part of it, of just him having like a stream of consciousness, talking out loud about there are these choices on the essays to talk about different things. I'm thinking of talking about this. What do you guys think? And we would give them yay, nay, everything in between. It was a lot of brainstorming that went on in July and a lot of talking at home. And so then I would just put it on paper and tape it to the fridge. The fridge looked crazy, but he's always going to the fridge. So that's the place where he could look at what's the plan coming up. And that's how I helped him to sort of move the work along and get it done, because it's fatiguing and a 17-year-old doesn't really want to be doing that over the summer or ever, but you have to help them to chunk it up and get it done. That was our method.
And then how did you know that, like MIT was the right school and the others were the wrong schools? Like, you could have picked any early decision. You have a smart kid.
Right.
He could have picked any early decision. NYU, Columbia, Hofstra
Right.
honors, dual degree. Why did you pick this school as your early? Why was this your early?
Well, first of all, Servan picked his schools. Of course, we had input, but this is his journey. So this was not about me and my husband telling him where to go. MIT came up in the conversation with him way back sophomore year. I mean, the kids at Bronx Science, talk about this stuff all the time. So by sophomore, junior year especially, I had bought the Fiske guide to the colleges, FISKE. It's got all of the colleges listed, and it gives these great descriptions about them. And it gives you an opportunity to thumb through them. Where are these colleges located? What are their sizes? What are they known for? What's the culture? And, started talking about those. I mean, we obviously had an idea. He's always been in love with Boston, and he also had very strong preferences about not wanting to be like a particular distance from New York. He wasn't interested in the West Coast. He is a very Northeast person and a city person also. So him knowing himself filtered a lot of the choices right there. But he is a math STEM kid and was very focused and determined, honestly, like since sophomore year, of just making sure that he did rigor at school, excelling, and maximizing his educational opportunity. He always knew he was going to be applying to the top 20 schools. Narrowing it down was then a different conversation. And then visiting MIT during the pandemic, everything was closed, but we went up to Boston for a weekend and into Cambridge particularly. And I will never forget it, him walking around MIT with not a whole lot of students there at all and everybody masked, and just him looking around and just saying, I just know it. I just feel it. Like, I want to be here. And that's what he focused on. He really, really focused on it. And then did a lot of research about the school. There's so much about the school that you could learn about online and the MIT blogs, talking to people who are MIT alums. One of the investigators at the lab was joining MIT as a professor, so we spoke to him about it last summer. So he would try to talk to people and learn as much as possible to know more about it and to know, wow, is this really going to fit the way I think it will? And he had a very strong idea that it would. And then more of the conversations with Bill, I think, helped to focus how much that was going to be a good fit for him. And how do you present yourself even stronger so that they see you that way? And his work with Bill was really just, it was great. It was an incredible thing to watch. Very grateful for that, Bill.
Yeah,
Very.
thank you, Tanya. Just
really.
want to emphasize to parents that you're listening to Tanya, and there's so much work that went into it. It's too much almost for one student to do. It's the parents.
It's a lot.
And it was advisors, and it's really what you want to get out of this college. It's worth it. That's one of the things that I really want to communicate to parents and students, how much the investment of time and effort pays off. I mean, Cervantes is a great example because he worked his tail off. He did it. It was just sort of like fine tuning some things and sort of like, optimizing certain things, but he really worked. And the colleges saw that. I think the colleges saw a young man who is really, really hardworking and driven, and obviously very bright. And on his essays, it communicated a lot of what made him special. And I think when you put that all together, that ruled the day. So all the parents have children that are unique, and this process is also measuring what they want. I mean, and then it takes encouragement, because at 17, you might not have the wherewithal that we have as adults, as parents. So, we should, as parents, try, reasonable effort to get these great results. And they're out there. It's not going to walk up and bite you. You have to go out and get it.
Right. Yeah, I think that the conversation was always about, that this college application process, or going to college and realizing your dreams of what you want, that it's like a long game. It's like a long game strategy. And that started early on in his high school years of really thinking, how do I present myself in the best possible light? And he put in his work for the grades and all of that kind of stuff. But then all of the writing and everything that gets done for college, wow. I mean, it was just that constant writing and rewriting. I mean, me as a parent, yeah, I was reading his essays, helping with typos and, stylistic, and, we would go back and forth, choices of phrases, things like that. But he would write and rewrite. And then before he met with you, Bill, he presented all of those essays and different ideas to his English teacher at school. He himself wanted it to be done so that he could take advantage of having teachers at school who were offering to, give some tips and advice about how do your essays sound. So in September, he was done. He had his good solid drafts and worked with his English teacher before he even, sat down and started to talk to you about, okay, how do I polish this brand and present it?
Tanya, I want to say thank you so much. Oh my God,
Sure.
Bill, you got it. Everyone, we have a surprise. It's the air. No, I'm kidding. It's the baby.
The baby. Hello, Jacob. Who's that? Look who's that. Say hi. Hi.
Everyone, say Tanya, will your son tutor me one day? Everyone, I want to say thank you so much for
Oh,
this
thanks.
wonderful webinar. And something that I really enjoy doing is taking everybody off the mute button, which I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to play with my mutes. Okay, hold on just a moment. So we're going to say thank you to Bill. We're going to say thank you to Tanya. I'm going to ask everyone to unmute. Okay. And we're going to say thank you. So I'm going to count to 3. So everyone get ready. I'm counting to 3. And I'm going to put my little baby, maybe I'm going to keep him for a minute in my spotlight. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Say thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you. Wait. Oh my God, I forgot about Tanya. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you, Tanya, and congrats to.
Thank you,
Tanya.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you so much for this amazing webinar. And thank you to the amazing community. Thank you to Kweller Prep community members, because you guys are awesome. And I'm very happy and it's an honor to do this. And I can't wait for this little baby to be at Kweller a few more years. And then tutoring. He's never going to know summer camp can have green grass. Okay. Who would have thought? All right. Don't forget. Okay. All right. I'm very excited. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Wait,
Bye.
Jacob, say bye. Oh, there he goes. Hi, Jacob. Booty, 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 booty. All right. Take care, everyone. I think that is the end of a very long day in the rain and at work. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for participating. Thank you for listening. All right. Have a wonderful night. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you. Thank you for a wonderful evening. Okay. Bye, everyone. Farewell. Bye, Bill. You can hit end meeting now. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.